Hey, what's up guys? I know I always get a lot of questions, and I think this will be a great tutorial for people that are looking to lay out a building site, really laying out anything. There's a couple things that you first have to do. One, you have to know your grade, which is your elevation. You need to know where you want your finished, whatever it is, whether it's concrete, a building site, whatever it is, what you want that grade elevation to be. And then what you also need to do is you need to find your constant points, your constant lines. So I'm gonna show you guys all that, and we're gonna lay out this building. It's a little bit complicated because it's not just a square. So we've got a couple little ins and outs. We've got a porch, and we'll take you through the whole process. What first we have to do is, you can see over here, we've got a house. So our customer is building a house at the same time, and he wants our building finished floor to be 6 inches below the wall on his building. So we're gonna take this grade stick, we've got it already zeroed out at that wall, and I'm gonna basically just get this pad to the point where it is minus 12 inches. And at that point, that's where our sonotubes are gonna go in. So that's what I'm looking for, so that our finished grade can end up being -6. All right, so I talked about grade. That is important when laying out a site so that everything starts right. So that's the first thing we did. Luckily, the builder was here. He was able to bring his machine and make quick work of this pad, pushing it out, getting it back down to where it should be. And then I just, kind of went over it with a fine-tooth comb with the Kubota and got it, packed back down tight and leveled out pretty good so that we can now determine where all of our locations go. So that brings us to our second point. So now that we've got our elevation figured, now we're gonna get our constant line. So right here and all the way down here are 2 pins that were dropped. This is the property lines. So this string line is defining what we're trying to square up against. So of course we've got the Stabila, the LA 180L, and we've got it plumb bob down right where we want our front line to be squared off. It's going to be squared this way. So we're setting our constant over here where we know this is a fixed point. The laser's talking to the receiver right now, getting locked on to that line. So we've set the laser off of this constant line. You can see customer was nice enough to find the pins on his property and drop these stakes with this string line. So we got the 180L sitting on the front line of our building. We measured off of the back lot line to determine that this is where he wanted the start of the building to be. So now we're going to use the layout station to give us a perfect 90 off of this constant line, and that will give us our new constant line that we will actually square and make the whole layout on the building for, and that'll be this front wall. Very important to always make sure, especially when laying out somebody else's building, that you take the time to find out exactly where it should be, because the last thing you want to do is build something and have somebody say, oh, you're off. All right, so there we go. We used the layout station to get a perfectly square line off the property line. We've pulled our measurements, which were supposed to be 40 feet off of the property line. Customer said give them an extra foot just to be safe. So we've got our 2 corners marked. This is now going to become our constant line on our building, and all of our other measurements will be pulled off of these because we've just determined it to be square to his property line, which is what he wanted. Now we've got to get a corner here, a corner here. There's an inside corner, another outside corner, and then there's a porch that we're going to dig over there. So now that we have our front line established, we've got our dimensions measured out, we've got our jet stakes and our bat boards kind of loosely set up, we're going to take one tape measure off of one front mark and the other tape measure off of the other corner, and we're going to use a calculator, what I talked about. So what I'm doing is the front line of our building is 43 foot 9 inches long, okay? And the reason it's not a full 44 is because this is our post layout, not the outside dimension of the building. Once we run our 1.5 girts, it will be a full 44 inches. But for now, we're just laying out our post measurements. So at 43.9, that's my run. My rise voicemail is 38 foot. What in the? Let's do that again. 43 foot 9 inch run. 38 foot 9 inch rise. So there's my rise, my run, and this is the measurement I really need. 58.5 and 5/16. So what I'm gonna do is, this tape measure right here is coming off the front. That's my 38 foot 9, what was that? 58.5 and 5/16. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this tape measure coming from that point way over there. What was it, Greg? 58.5
and
5/16.
5/16, yeah.
It's always good to double check. All this talking, 58.5 and 5/16. So I'm gonna find, you're burning a foot, Zach? Or exact? No, that's fine. I just want to know what you're doing so I can be on the same page. And I'm gonna pull both of these tight. And where this tight line is, that is gonna give me the back square point. So that's gonna give me my third corner, and I'll do the exact same thing, only I'll flip-flop it to get the other corners, and that's what's gonna give you a perfectly square layout to start your building. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw a little picture here and I'm gonna overlay it while I talk. What I've got going on is this building is not a perfect square, so we've determined our three, I guess what I'm gonna say longest dimensions, but then there's gonna be a little bit of a stair step in the back wall. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the same Pythagorean theorem on the calculator to determine this back corner that is not the full 44 foot that the front wall is. It's only gonna be 24 foot. So we're gonna put in our calculator 23 foot 9 inches, and then we're gonna put the 38 foot 9 inches, which is our end wall length, and we're gonna use those two dimensions to determine this back corner. And then we've got a little bit of an instep that we're also gonna have to figure out, because this job, what happened is the variance and code on this site required the customer to only have X amount of square footage, and I don't remember if it was 2,400 square foot. That seems like a lot. It might have only been like 1,400. I don't remember, but we had to kind of play with the building. He needed the 40 feet depth, 39 foot, so that he could get his boat and trailer in, but then he didn't need that deep of a building for the rest of it, so we went ahead and did this little jog. Probably cost him more money. It's always cheaper to go big and square. But I think it's going to add a little bit of a detail to the building that'll make it unique and kind of fun to you know, follow along with. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and follow along to this job. .45.5 3/8. 45.5 3/8, and you're Zach at 0. 45.5 3/8. A-Rock. A little bit more difficult than a standard building because we've got basically, if you want to look at it like a rectangle here that is 23 foot 9 inches, sorry, 28 foot 9 inches by 44 feet. And then we've got a rectangle that kind of sits this way that's 24 by 38. So we're going to determine those two squares, and we've also marked in the middle of this line where it should line up with that little indented area. And when we put all these four lines up on each square, we should get a point somewhere in this area that's going to be our inside corner. And I could set a jet stake here with a couple jet stakes and a bat board. That's, by the way, that is where Greg is guessing it to be. I'm sure he's close, but I don't want any bat boards and jet stakes in the middle of the building so that when we go to dig, nothing is in our way. We can just drop our strings and go. Now, the only thing that we haven't done is there's a porch over here, and we use the layout station to determine the front corner. So at least I know this is where the corner of the porch post is gonna go, and I can just kind of rough estimate based off of all these lines once we get them up exactly where the other two posts are going to go, because I want to try to dig these holes at the same time while the concrete truck's here, and I don't have to bring in 1 yard of concrete for 3 holes. But this grade is a little bit off. It's a little bit muddy. I don't know if I'm gonna do it yet. I haven't determined, but just in case, we've got that there also, and we'll use all these lines that we're determining to get these 2 porch posts. But it's just all the same way. It's all math, guys. It's all math. Now, when doing our batter boards, some people call them, I call them just a bat board. We're just driving in some concrete jet stakes, and we always try to make it so that you can see here, this is just an eyeball representation of the corner. When we put our string through here, you don't want your jet stakes in the way. So you're gonna have a line coming through this way, and then from down there, you'll have a line coming in this way. So we're just keeping them out of the building pad or the actual building dimension enough that we can dig our holes and not disturb anything here. So once we get them kind of just rough located and our jet stakes pushed in the ground, then we're gonna come through with the laser and set all of our batter boards or bat boards to a certain elevation. That way we know when we set our tubes and we set our brackets, the string lines are all level. That's another thing that's important, I think, because if you're using your string lines to check square on the building pad and they're not level, if they're like this, you know, yeah, you could only be off a 32nd or maybe a 16th, but you know, it doesn't take a whole lot of time to, you've already got the laser out, you already know grade and elevation, so just use it to set your batter boards. And when a customer shows up, they're not like, why is that board all cockeyed? It just looks better. What I mean with the grade stick is, since I've already determined where my grade is, I've set it so that all of the batter boards, and I think, oh, hey, gotta turn it on. Let it calibrate without the laser on it. And I wanted to take your guys' advice, and sorry, I turned the volume down a little. But anyway, you can see now the bat board sitting right where we want it, so we can go check all of these to be the same way as we're installing them. So what we're doing, come up a little bit more right there, Greg, and that's where we're gonna install this batter board. Up, just down right there. I've seen a lot of people do their bat boards differently, where they'll do like a V all the way out. I find this to be easier because it only takes one board, 2 jet stakes, and you'll get both of your lines off of the same one. So hopefully this is a good representation of what we got going on now. We've got this rectangle here, and then we've got the rectangle that is formed right here. And when we connect these 2 squares or rectangles together with strings, it's going to give us our point right in the middle. And these jet stakes and batter boards are just up long enough to set our brackets and then stand our walls, and then we'll get them out of here. So once we've got our pins in the ground, our batter boards are all set up, we're going to take our string line and we're going to pull it through over top of our nail. Okay, this was our initial one. We don't want that one anymore. We're looking at this guy. And then I'm just going to make a mark right on my batter board. Just going to set a little shingle nail here. Now let me show you a little trick on this string line, a nice knot. I kind of get it tugged, you know, snug, I guess. Get a little snug tug, Greg. And then I take the string, and this is going to be the Boy Scout in me showing you a little knot. I take the rope or string over my hand, and then I just pull it through the backside. What that's going to do, it's going to give me a nice little knot here that's not going to go anywhere, but when I'm done, I can take both of these strings and it's going to make a liar out of me. Well, usually it works.
You're going to break it.
I'm going to break it. I don't want to do it. I must have, I think I
yank it real hard. You did something wrong.
I do this the same way.
You mess it up every time.
Every time. Now what's nice, if you notice, we set that little mark out there right here. There's a nail, and it looks like it's right underneath our string line, so that means we did at least one thing right. So now that we have the front string line determined, all we're going to do is we're going to use these same nails, and we're going to pull, basically we're just going to pull strings over top of the nails we set, and then we'll check square with the string lines themselves. So I'm gonna let Greg do it just because. Go ahead, Greg. You do it. Yeah, I've taught you this, man. Show the world.
You want me to do it my way? Or you want me to do it your way?
Do it our way.
All right. Wrap around.
Wait, bro. Let me see. Okay, so take us through this. What are you gonna do? You're gonna wrap it around your fingers?
Wrap it around your hand twice-ish.
Twice.
Then you need to bring that up and through, and then that didn't work out because I don't like doing it according to my way. So I like taking it, spinning it, getting a nice loop, grab it, and boom.
So you'll never be a teacher because you did that so fast and said boom and grab and this and that. Let's do it one more time and show the. Oh wait, did you see that?
Did you see that?
It just turned into a string again with no knots. So take us through that, Greg. You're gonna grab it, twist it, flip it, and reverse it.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, you're gonna flip your hand around, spin it once.
Yep.
Now what? Wait. So what you're doing here is you've twisted it around the rope.
Yep.
And you're gonna grab. That little guy.
Yep. Pull that through your loop.
And what you've done is you've created some sort of a slip knot right here. And what that's gonna do is it'll give you your tension so you can get it down. You can get it down on your nail that we set, and then you can kind of tighten it up. But what's great is when you're all said and done, show us, Greg.
When you're all said and done,
you're gonna take that up and boom, pull it, and it's good to go.
Magic.
Greg, were you an Eagle Scout?
Nope.
Boom, so there you go, right through our nails, and once we get the rest of these strings up, it's time to check square and make sure it's perfect. So this is another reason we like to make sure all of our batter boards are perfectly level and laser shot, because when you go to put your strings over top of other strings, you don't want them pushing or moving them. You want them all to be at the same plane. So what happens is the friction of the two strings together can actually move your strings in a position that you don't want them to. So you want them to be nice and free floating. Greg, I'm gonna try it your way. Go ahead and do your knot.
All right. Well, why don't we just showcase your knot also?
Okay, you go ahead and do yours.
All right, do mine.
And then we'll show you guys how I do it, which is probably not the right way, but it's just my way. And I'm okay with that, Greg. You hear that? I don't have an ego problem.
I don't either.
Whatever. So I like to just kind of find out where my tension point is. I wrap it around my hand and pull through, and I get the same exact effect. So I just wrap around once and then I pull it through. I don't have to be all, you know, I'm gonna do my wrist this way and then I'm gonna flip it and reverse it. But it's just a simple knot. Most people are probably already gonna know it. We use it all the time out here on the post frame site. And then you can kind of tighten it up, give it a nice little backwards tug, and that kind of locks it in place. Okay. Hey, there's more than one way to skin a cat, Greg. Your way is just fine for you, and my way is just fine for me.
My way's better, though.
All right. There we go. We've got all of our strings up. We're going to double check them now with tape measures in all of our, you know, corner points and everything. You can see here, this is what's giving us our inside corner. So we'll end up having a post right here, and our wall girts will come into it. Greg was super spot on this line, but just about a foot off. So I'd say more like 12 inches off on his dimension. Pretty accurate, Greg? So now we're gonna check our corners, and I wanted this at 44.9. It's actually 43.9, but he's burning me a foot on the other end, which means instead of, you know, holding the tape measure right on the string line, he's actually holding it at 1 foot. It's a little bit easier and more accurate. So what I need to do is adjust my string line accordingly. So what I've done is I've come up and I've measured a difference here. So I'm gonna set a new nail here, put the string line over, and make sure that you pull your other nail out. The reason being is there's gonna be a point where you're gonna pull these string lines off to do your hole digging and whatnot. You don't want a guy coming back and having to guess which one that you're supposed to go on. So I'll set a new nail and I'll pull the old nail. All right, guys, so now that we've gone around, we've checked all of our external dimensions. So what we've done is we've pulled off of all the corners to check that our strings are at least the right distances apart. But the most important is that are we square? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna burn a foot on this end. We've got our diagonal in the calculator. It's 45, what was it, Greg?
45, 5 3/8.
Okay.
But we're burning a foot, so
we're burning a foot, so I'd say that is money spot on. Now I know what you guys are gonna say is, well, what do you do if it's off? So let's go ahead and check some other squares and see if we are off, because one of them has to be off, right, Greg? I mean, there's a good possibility that one will be off. Most likely it'll be close. Okay, let's clear this. We're gonna go 28 foot 9 inch and 43 foot 9 inch. It's gonna give us a 52 4 and 3/16, Greg. 52. So you're looking for 53 4 and 3/16. Okay, so good. This one is more like 53, just shy of 53 4, which means we've got to move this about 1/4 of an inch. We got to make this diagonal about 1/4 inch longer. So we've got a couple options. Now remember, we want to keep this front line our constant, and we've got to kind of stretch this corner. So what we got to do is we're going to have to move this line here and the line way over there. We got to bring them both our way. But first what we're going to do is we're going to double check this diagonal to confirm that it needs to move 1/4 inch, because there could be error somewhere in the outside dimensions as well. So let's go ahead and do that. But most likely what we'll do is we'll just move this guy. You can see we already moved it about 1/4. We're going to probably need to move it just a little bit more than another 1/4 to get this diagonal dimension correct. So we'll check this first and we'll see if we're off. Okay, so what we did was we had an off dimension from this point up here. So we went to the farthest point, because I like to go and get the biggest squares possible perfect and then work down from there. So once again, we're pulling diagonal. We're looking for 50, what is it? 55, 5 and...
No, 58, but we're burning
a foot. Oh, burning a foot, so 59, 5 and 5/16. So I think this is good. So what we've got going on is there's something going on right in here, which I kind of expected just because it's a little bit unique. So we're gonna play around with some dimension. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna measure this dimension to make sure that when we pull from that string line for that wall, that this is actually 43.9, and I would say we're about an 1/8 inch almost shy. So that is gonna push that line out and give us a little bit more on our diagonal. The thing to remember is when we're doing this, like, we're spending a lot of time to try to make it perfect. We might never get it perfect, and if we really wanted to set the layout station up on every string line, we could confirm that it is perfectly square. But this goes back to that whole, you know, first off, not everybody has a LA180L $1,500 layout station. If you want one, I'll go ahead and put the link down below so you can get yourself one. But the goal is to get as close as possible, because I promise you, if you're within 1/16, everybody down the line from the builder to the finish guy inside, they're gonna be very happy with you. I know I was gonna show you guys, but we really didn't have to do much. All we had to do was move a couple of these string lines over just a little bit. So once you make your adjustments, never change your constant line. That front line was always going to be constant because it was square with the property line. So all of our adjustments were done in the back side, and we just had to come over about 1/8 to 3/16, and you can see where we originally put our nail. You know, this is kind of a, this is loose, so it's not perfectly perfect. So when we're setting our string lines over these nails, we're kind of guesstimating to get really close with our batter boards, and then all of your final adjustments are done right here. Now that this is determined, we can pull measurements off of these corners and mark all of our hole locations to then get our holes dug and get this building going. So now we're going through, we got our marks all laid out, and you'll notice these monster X's. That's about 4 foot, and that is because when we dig our hole, if we encounter any debris down low that moves our auger around, we're gonna be able to visually see that, because if you don't make a big enough X, as soon as you go to dig your hole, you lose the trace of where exactly you're supposed to dig. So we got all of our X's laid down, and I don't ever like doing these close together, because basically this is just gonna become one monster hole. That's just the way it's going to happen, and that one down there is even worse. But I guess we won't really know until we start digging. There is enough moisture in the ground that it might stay together fairly decent. We'll see. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little tutorial video. I don't know if it's, you know, extremely useful for everybody out there, but a lot of people have to lay out, you know, whether it be a patio, a driveway, a house, or a building, you know, whatever it is, you can use these principles to hopefully help your layout go even more efficiently and hopefully even more perfect. So that is always the goal, although nobody's perfect. We all know that. I appreciate you guys watching the video, and hopefully if you enjoyed it and you are enjoying other videos on this channel, you will hit that subscribe button and drop me a thumbs up and a comment down below on what you liked or disliked about this video, or even some other content that you are looking forward to RR Building showing off, and I will do the best to make that happen. So you guys have a great day, and I'm gonna go grab lunch and come back and start digging holes.